My elder sister feared pain, so she chose to hatch the docile phoenix egg, leaving the savage white tiger embryo for me. Later, the white tiger I nurtured became an ancient mystical beast, while the phoenix she hatched was merely an ordinary spirit creature, consumed by jealousy. My elder sister seized my moment of weakness and drove a soul-shattering dagger through my heart. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn to the day of choosing which spirit beast to nurture, this time. The legitimate elder sister said that she had always doted on her younger sister, so she let the younger sister nurture the phoenix egg. Women of our Lingxi clan have always possessed the constitution to nurture spiritual beasts, but the Lingxi clan also finds it extremely difficult to give birth to female infants. The bird tribe and tiger tribe had long sent their spiritual beast embryos to our father's residence. The bird tribe is oviparous, and the phoenix eggs they send only require daily nourishment with a drop of blood, and they will hatch after 5 months. The tiger clan bears live young, requiring the white tiger embryo to be nurtured within the womb for 10 months before birth. White tigers are ferocious. Even during their warm gestation in the womb, they torment their bearers day and night with restlessness. The 10-month birthing process is perilous, with even a slight misstep potentially proving fatal. 1. Father favored his legitimate eldest daughter most, entrusting her with the phoenix egg. I, born from his drunken encounter with a lowly maid, saw nothing but undisguised contempt in his eyes, so he assigned me the white tiger embryo. If a high-quality spirit beast is successfully nurtured, even a worthless creature like me could ascend, though father and the family would surely claim their share of credit. But if the conception fails, if I die, my life can atone for another. If I survive, Father will deliver me to the tiger clan as an apology, leaving me to be torn apart by those savage tiger demons. I should never have been born, yet the rhinoceros clan rarely bears female offspring, and my mother happened to carry a girl. Father had no choice but to take her as a concubine, and thus I was brought into this world. My elder sister has loathed me since childhood. In this generation of the rhinoceros clan, she was meant to be the only daughter, destined for endless wealth and adoration, but my birth seemed to steal everyone's affection from her. I yielded every turn, with no intention to contend with her. The phoenix egg she nurtured hatched into a spiritual beast at birth, constantly showing off to me and enjoying watching me suffer under the torment of the white tiger embryo. Tessa, even if you manage to birth this white tiger, so what? Can you possibly nurture a divine-grade spiritual beast? Don't end up producing a low-grade one and disgrace our Lingxi clan. After 10 months of gestation, the white tiger embryo had completely drained my energy. By the time of its birth, I had expended half my spiritual power and nearly half my life to deliver it. When the white tiger was born, 9 dragon-shaped shadows formed from purple mist coiled above my house, a purple aura from the east with 9 circling dragons, the ancient sign of a mystic beast's birth. A single primordial mystical beast could command an entire region. After I gave birth to the white tiger, a legendary primordial beast, my status soared overnight. Not only did my elder sister have to kneel before me, but even my father addressed me respectfully as Immortal Tessa, consumed by jealousy over my bearing of a primordial beast and my newfound superiority. My elder sister sought out the soul-shattering dagger. She bribed my maid to stab me in the heart when I least expected it. Gripping the dagger tightly, she pushed it deeper and twisted it viciously, ensuring my demise. I collapsed to my knees in agony, my face deathly pale, as the soul-shattering dagger began devouring my soul fragment by fragment. My elder sister still wasn't satisfied. She leaned closer to my ear, as if afraid I might miss her words. Actually, the fire that killed your mother after she gave birth to you, I started it. I stared at her in disbelief, my face contorted with agony. She smiled with satisfaction. That lowly wretch screamed so pitifully when she was burned alive. Just as wretched as you look now, you're just another lowly wretch. You don't deserve to sit in such a high position. The soul-shattering dagger crushed my spirit entirely. Before I could curse her to die a wretched death, my throat had already lost its voice. I hate her, and I hate this world. Why must there be distinctions of nobility and commonality? Why are women born only to marry and breed spirit beasts? Why can't fate be grasped in one's own hands? If I could start over, I would. My dissipating consciousness suddenly coalesced. After enduring the agony of soul reconstruction, my vision was engulfed in blinding whiteness. When my vision finally cleared, I found myself lying in that same shabby room from my past. Outside the door, a maid was pounding impatiently, as if determined to break it down. Still sleeping. The clan leader summons you to the council hall. If you're late and get punished, don't drag me down with you. I smirked. The heavens were still on my side after all. In my past life, my elder sister knew full well today was the crucial day for spirit beast selection, yet deliberately kept me uninformed until father flew into a rage and personally dragged me there, leaving me no choice in the matter. Since my legitimate sister's mother comes from a noble family, And she is also favored by our father. It was only natural that the phoenix egg should be entrusted to her for nurturing, but after being reborn, my legitimate sister unexpectedly sent someone to summon me to the council chamber, and even unprecedentedly pleaded with our father on my behalf. Father, yesterday was Aunt Ophelia's death anniversary. My younger sister was paying respects to Aunt Ophelia until very late last night, which is why she arrived late today. But it only delayed things briefly. It's no major issue. Father frowned. Tessa, I know yesterday was your mother's death anniversary. I already sent people to burn paper offerings and arrange sacrificial fruits for your mother yesterday. Are you blaming me for not visiting your mother? I shook my head. Father is busy managing family affairs. It's enough that he remembers mother's death anniversary. Please take more care of your own health. I knew my elder sister was deliberately trying to make father dislike me. In my past life, I would have remained silent, and father would have thought I was blaming him and flown into a rage. Hearing my words, the frown between father's brows eased, and he gently told us the purpose of summoning us. After father finished speaking, I stood to the side, quietly waiting for my elder sister's choice. My elder sister's gaze swept over me as she said with a radiant smile, as the elder sister, I must yield to my younger sister. Since you lost your mother at a young age, my heart aches for you. Let me allow you to nurture this phoenix egg instead. Her words took me by surprise, but I quickly realized my elder sister had also been reborn, and this time, she intends to nurture the white tiger embryo, ascending to greatness by birthing an ancient mystical beast. Though my expression remained unreadable, I sighed inwardly. Sister, oh sister. Nurturing this white tiger embryo won't be as easy as you think. Rejecting the phoenix egg that could nurture a divine-grade spirit beast with just a drop of blood daily, she instead chose to provoke this extremely ferocious white tiger embryo, the father said pityingly to his legitimate eldest daughter. Though this white tiger embryo is excellent, its nature remains vicious. You have to nurture it in your womb for 10 months. Why suffer this hardship, with your talent? Nurturing the phoenix egg could very likely produce a divine-grade spirit beast. The legitimate eldest daughter shook her head. Precisely because my talent is good, I must nurture this white tiger. If I can produce a quality surpassing divine-grade spirit beasts, it will bring glory to father and our family. The father affectionately patted his legitimate eldest daughter's head. Zinnia, you're truly sensible. Your birthday is coming up in a few days, and I'll make sure to throw a grand celebration for our Zinnia when the time comes, but we just observed Aunt Ophelia's memorial yesterday. Holding such a lavish event might make my younger sister uncomfortable. My elder sister pretended to be considerate of me, her brows furrowed with worry, but in reality, if I refused, she would repeatedly bring up my mother's Memorial Day to provoke our father. Father was also watching me, waiting for my response. I looked at my elder sister. My expression neither sorrowful nor joyful. The departed are gone. As the legitimate eldest daughter of noble status, you naturally deserve a grand funeral. Father nodded in satisfaction, and my elder sister smiled, her face full of triumph. The corners of my lips curled slightly. After all, what better offering for mother's death anniversary than the blood of my elder sister? To ensure I could nurture the phoenix egg well, father had servants move me to a new room and assigned several maids to attend to me. The phoenix egg and white tiger embryo were sent by the avian and tiger clans respectively. Both are major families that the lynxy clan cannot afford to offend. Using the phoenix egg's preference for tranquility as an excuse, I forbade anyone from approaching my room, while secretly cultivating inside. Women of the lynxy clan are forbidden to practice cultivation techniques from childhood. They study texts solely about nurturing divine-grade spirit beasts and serving their husbands. In my youth, I accidentally found a cultivation manual and secretly practiced it in my old courtyard. My elder sister only knew that the white tiger embryo could nurture the ancient mystical beast, the white tiger, but she was unaware that the phoenix egg could do the same. The key to awakening an ancient mystical beast lies not only in nourishing it with the special bloodline of the lynxy clan but also requires an immense amount of spiritual energy. The spiritual energy I cultivated over a decade was completely devoured when the white tiger was born. Had I not possessed abundant spiritual energy, the white tiger would have consumed my life force, causing me to perish instantly. After circulating my spiritual energy, I turned my gaze to the phoenix egg wrapped in silk beside me. The egg was pristine white, but upon closer inspection, delicate golden patterns could be seen. I pricked my index finger and let a drop of blood fall onto the phoenix egg, as if sensing it. The blood was absorbed almost instantly. A single drop of lynxy blood each day is enough to nurture a divine-grade spiritual beast, but the phoenix egg, having received that drop of blood, did not settle down. Instead, it became restless, swaying left and right. I knew what it wanted, Just like the white tiger, it was drawn to the dense spiritual power within my bloodline. I reached out and gently stroked the phoenix egg, whispering softly, "Patience, patience, I will help you become an ancient mystical beast." 2. The phoenix egg trembled slightly, then grew docile. The tightly shut door suddenly swung open as a maidservant with a clear slap mark on her face was shoved inside, collapsing onto the floor. Immediately after, my elder sister entered, supported by her attendant Huanbi. "How have you been lately, little sister?" My elder sister circled my room before stopping before the phoenix egg beside me, her eyes flashing with a sudden gleam. "I've caught a wretched maidservant who tried to destroy the phoenix egg for you." With a nod from my elder sister, Huanbi immediately understood and pushed forward the maidservant whose face was red from being struck. "Second yen, miss, please believe me. I was momentarily possessed by evil thoughts. I beg you to show mercy and spare me." The maidservant kowtowed frantically in terror, soon staining the floor with blood from her forehead. The legitimate elder sister covered her nose and mouth in disgust. As she was nurturing a white tiger fetus, she disliked seeing such bloody things. "Since it was a maid from your chamber who caused trouble, I'll leave her punishment to you," I said indifferently. "A mistake is a mistake. Take her away and behead her." The legitimate sister looked slightly surprised, expecting me to plead for mercy, but quickly suppressed her astonishment. "Little sister, why be so harsh? Since no major harm was done yet, just give this maid to me. I'll discipline her properly for you." I looked at my elder sister's breathtakingly beautiful face and curled my lips. "I'll follow your lead, sister." My elder sister's birthday celebration was extravagantly grand. Father sent people to search the world for rare treasures, just to bring a smile to her face. Alara, my elder sister's birth mother, was also present. Alara and father sat on either side of my sister, who wore a golden phoenix tail dress embroidered with hundreds of flowers. Sitting in the center with her head held high like a noble princess, Alara poured wine for father, while father served dishes to my elder sister. My sister hugged them both, laughing with utmost joy. And I sat in a corner far from them, watching the scene of domestic bliss from a distance. Just a few days ago was my mother's death anniversary, yet today they could forget everything and revel in drunken merriment. The white mourning band had just been removed from my forehead, while they never even wore one, freely changing into gaudy red and purple garments. Someone even stood up and insulted my mother. Alara truly raised a daughter as lovely as flowers and the moon, clever and exquisite. Unlike some lowly maid's daughter who has no manners at all. That burly man with a full beard looked at me meaningfully, his eyes filled with disdain. The legitimate sister pouted discontentedly. "Today is my birthday, why mention that woman? You're ruining father and mother's good mood." Alara appeared to be scolding her daughter, but was actually disparaging my mother again. "Zinnia, you mustn't be so rude. Even though Ophelia was born to a maid, she is still your half-aunt after all." Seeing Alara reprimand her, the legitimate sister went to their father, shaking his arm coquettishly. "Father, you said that mother and I are the treasures of your heart, didn't you?" The father affectionately patted his eldest daughter's head. Yes, you're all the treasures of my heart," the bearded man hastily said. "If it weren't for that wretched maid seducing the family head, she wouldn't have become the second wife." The father didn't deny it. Alara smiled and said, "You're called Riker, right? You may withdraw now." The one called Riker quickly nodded, beaming with joy as he returned to his seat. I stared coldly at the man who was so eager to please my father and my legitimate sister. I had long since uncovered the truth. That day, my father, captivated by my mother's beauty yet fearful of the Alara family's power, had feigned drunkenness to force himself upon her. When she became pregnant, the truth could no longer be concealed. The three figures seated on the high platform were a picture of harmony, as if the person they had just discussed was merely a joke to amuse them after their feast. I rose and walked toward Riker. "Since you're so fond of claiming credit, let's start with you." Raising my cup, I gave him a radiant smile. "Riker, you're right, I truly haven't mastered proper etiquette. I apologize to you here, Riker, and beg you to accept this bow." I raised my cup in salute to him, deliberately spilling the wine on his clothes, then hastily used my handkerchief to wipe it off. His drunken, flushed face stared at me as he grabbed my wrist and teased, "You've grown to look quite like your mother." I leaned close to his ear and whispered, "You'll soon meet my mother and can apologize to her in person." Returning to my seat, I watched with great satisfaction as his face turned from red to black. Halfway through the birthday banquet, the main event finally arrived. I watched as my elder sister suddenly turned deathly pale, clutching her stomach and crying out in pain. The father anxiously used his spiritual power to investigate and discovered the white tiger in his legitimate daughter's womb was restless. His expression darkened as he ordered someone to check what at the banquet was causing the white tiger's agitation. The investigation revealed it was the maid by the sister's side, who had added an extra herb to the incense burner during the banquet. That same maid had previously attempted to harm my phoenix egg without success, and now she was targeting the white tiger embryo of the legitimate sister. The legitimate sister clutched her stomach, tears glistening in her eyes. Although I captured you that day, wanting to give you a chance to reform, I never imagined you would come to harm me. You've already succeeded in your scheme. If my sister hadn't needed me that day and I happened to catch you lurking outside her room, wouldn't you have harmed her too? With just a few casually spoken words, she directed all suspicion toward me, making it seem as though I had deliberately orchestrated the maid's performance, then manipulated her to harm my elder sister while keeping my own hands clean. Since I was also a victim, naturally no one would suspect me of plotting against my elder sister. Father simply stared at the maid without speaking. But the maid began pleading, although I served the second young miss. This matter has absolutely nothing to do with her. It somewhat carries the implication of a self-confession without being pressed. My elder sister feigned surprise. How could you speak such nonsense? My younger sister would never harm me, and father, as if struck by sudden enlightenment, believed I was jealous of my elder sister receiving all the affection, and sought to frame her by killing the white tiger. Soon, I was forced to my knees before my elder sister by the guards. The legitimate elder sister still put on the act of a good sister. Father, I believe younger sister wouldn't do such a thing. I didn't mean to harm elder sister. The extra herb in the incense burner was specially added by my order. It has calming effects. The legitimate sister's expression froze on her face. Father sent someone to examine it, and discovered the extra herb wasn't poisonous at all. On the contrary, it truly had calming and pregnancy-nourishing effects. 3. It was merely a counter-scheme. I knew my elder sister wished me dead. How could she possibly be so kind as to help me catch the culprit who sought to destroy the phoenix egg? I declared loudly. Since elder sister has suffered this injustice, we cannot let the villain go unpunished. I propose that all present guests be thoroughly searched. What does father think? Father gave me a stern look, then waved his hand to order the search. The inspection revealed something unusual on Riker. Riker carried a faint scent of frostbloom flowers. Frostbloom is cold-natured and highly damaging to white tiger embryos, while Riker's heavy drinking masked the floral aroma with alcohol. But the incident happened so suddenly that before the scent of the frostbloom on Riker could fully dissipate, he had already been exposed. Riker seemed to realize something and roared at me, "It's you, you vile wretch, you're the one who framed me." I merely looked at him indifferently. The frostbloom I had refined into medicinal powder was wrapped in spiritual energy, and I had deliberately sprinkled it on him when wiping him with a handkerchief earlier. As for the remaining powder, I had already destroyed all traces of it. How could father possibly find any evidence on me? As for him, while he put on a facade of flattering father, he had long been secretly colluding, dreaming of one day taking the position of the Lingxi clan's patriarch. In father's eyes, he had already become a thorn in the side. Did he really think father was unaware of his schemes? Riker was dragged away to be torn apart by chariots, his dismembered corpse discarded in the wilderness. The first target of my vengeance was this man who had once insulted my mother. My elder sister's belly grew larger day by day, and she hadn't come to trouble me for quite some time. Although the frostbloom could harm the white tiger embryo, I only sprinkled a small amount, greatly diminishing its effects. It merely caused my elder sister to endure stomach pains for the duration of a cup of tea. I had no intention of harming the white tiger in my elder sister's womb. On the contrary, I wanted to protect it and ensure she too would give birth to an ancient mystical beast. Heart-wrenching screams echoed daily from my elder sister's chamber. I knew the white tiger was tormenting her womb again. After all, in my past life when I carried the white tiger, my suffering was no less than hers. Though fully aware that the white tiger made me vomit and purge until my intestines nearly came out, unable to tolerate even a whiff of meat grease, my elder sister still ordered blackbone chicken soup sent to my room. The soup's surface floated a thick layer of oil. The blackbone chicken, simmered for hours, should have been fragrant, but the meaty aroma invaded my nostrils. My utterly emptied stomach surged with acid again. After retching bile, I began vomiting blood. My elder sister forced me to drink every last drop of that black chicken soup. Knowing the white tiger could torment me day and night, my elder sister disdained to kill me directly. Watching me suffer brought her more satisfaction than my swift death. Outside my elder sister's room, I heard her wailing and throwing a tantrum. "I don't want to bear the white tiger anymore. Mother, help me. Please remove the tiger embryo. Zinnia truly can't endure this pain any longer. This is only the beginning. It'll get much harder to bear later on." I knocked on the door and entered after receiving permission. Inside the room, my elder sister was gripping Alara's hand, her fingertips turning pale, her lips also drained of color. My elder sister's hair was disheveled, completely devoid of her usual noble demeanor, her eyes fixed on me. "Tessa, if it weren't for you, if it weren't for you." I wouldn't have. My elder sister swallowed the rest of her words. She wanted to say that if it weren't for me, she wouldn't have chosen to bear the white tiger and suffer this torment. Sister, your foresight in considering the family's interests and nurturing the white tiger embryo is something this lowly half-blood could never match. Sister has been carrying the white tiger for several months now. Just endure a little longer. And you can deliver it. No more suffering after that. My tone shifted subtly as I continued, but if anything were to go wrong with the white tiger before then, and the tiger clan were to hold us accountable, our spirit deer clan could never bear such consequences. The eldest sister had completely regained her composure, though her womb still ached with spasms. Cold sweat had unknowingly drenched her back. If she were to beg Alara in a moment of weakness to remove the white tiger embryo from her belly, the consequences for both her and Alara would be unthinkable. Alara, however, remained much calmer than her and asked me, "What brings you here?" Alara appears gentle and refined, with a kind and benevolent demeanor, but in reality, her heart is the most malicious. I know she played a role in fueling my mother's death. Otherwise, at that time, the eldest sister was just a child. If Alara hadn't whispered about my mother in her ear every day, how could she have harbored such hatred toward my mother? Even the arson was likely orchestrated by Alara. She wanted the eldest sister to carry out the arson for her, even if discovered and blamed by our father. How could he bear to punish a child who knew nothing? I said I had a method that could alleviate my elder sister's pain without causing harm to the user, though she would need more rest after using it. A glint flashed in Alara's eyes as she smiled and accepted the method I wrote, saying that since I cared so much for my elder sister, I deserved more rewards, so she rewarded me with a pile of jewelry and even assigned me additional maidservants. I lowered my head to sip tea, casually picking up a storybook to pass the time. Though the maidservant didn't look directly at me, her peripheral gaze scrutinized me thoroughly. This is no reward. It's clearly surveillance. She's afraid I might do something harmful to her daughter. I know Alara is cautious by nature. She would only let the eldest sister use that method after thoroughly verifying it poses no major issues. That method was painstakingly devised by me to temporarily suppress the white tiger's nature, but if it reaches the 10th-month birth anniversary, the white tiger's instincts will become uncontrollable, growing even more violent. It won't emerge without turning the eldest sister's womb upside down. After months of the eldest sister's restlessness, her cries finally ceased. I knew she lacked patience. She must have used that method before Alara could complete her research. The phoenix I nurtured is about to be born. I dripped the last drop of blood onto the phoenix egg, knowing that today is the day it would hatch and transform into an ancient mystical beast. The egg shook excitedly from side to side. It even sent out a shockwave that knocked out the maid who was watching me. I stroked the smooth eggshell and laughed. "You're quite perceptive." Knowing someone is watching me, making it hard for me to transfer spiritual energy to you. After all, for women of the Lingxi clan, being discovered secretly cultivating spiritual power is a capital offense. For, I channeled the spiritual energy from my body continuously through my fingertips into the phoenix egg, as it absorbed the abundant energy. The golden patterns grew brighter and began rapidly transforming, taking the shape of a golden phoenix. With memories of my past life's cultivation and without the white tiger causing turmoil within me, assisting the phoenix egg in becoming an ancient mystical beast was considerably easier than in my previous life. The phoenix egg's shell gradually cracked, followed by a crimson beak emerging to peck away the remaining shell. A phoenix covered in golden feathers, with 4 long tail plumes, was born. When the ancient mystical phoenix emerged, it created a scene where all birds paid homage to the phoenix. Every bird within a 100-mile radius flew over, circling above my rooftop. The phenomenon startled everyone. Father and Alara rushed over, thinking the eldest sister had birthed the ancient mystical beast, never expecting the spectacle to originate above my roof. The eldest sister also hurried over, cradling her belly. As I stepped out of the room holding the little phoenix, the eldest sister seemed unable to believe I had birthed another ancient mystical beast, her eyes turning blood-red with envy. I gently stroked the little phoenix's feathers. "These birds are chirping above my head, and it's making me a bit annoyed." The little phoenix nodded understandingly, flew out of my arms, and landed in front of the crowd, with a single cry towards the sky. All the birds immediately obediently flew down and stopped about a meter away from me, bowing in submission. A genuine ancient mystical beast. Father's hands trembled with excitement as he repeatedly praised, "Good, good, Tessa has truly made me proud." My elder sister seemed to have lost her mind, picking up stones from the ground and throwing them at the little phoenix. "How could you possibly be an ancient mystical beast? You must be a fake, a fake." The stones didn't hit the little phoenix but were instead repelled by the spiritual power of the avian clan leader who came to welcome it. The rebounding stone grazed my elder sister's face, leaving an immediate bloody scratch, but my elder sister paid no heed to her injured face, merely staring blankly as the noble avian clan leader respectfully bowed to the little phoenix and addressed me as Fairy Tessa. My father looks at me as if I were the clan's most treasured jewel, yet the undisguised resentment in Alara and my elder sister's eyes burns brightly. The avian clan carried me away in a grand palanquin, and the jealousy and hatred in my elder sister's eyes lifted my spirits immensely. I received word that my elder sister was confined for a month by our father for offending an ancient mystical beast, while Alara, who pleaded on her behalf, was also punished with a month's seclusion. Meanwhile, I lounged on a soft chair, indulging in daily feasts and amusements, yet found myself utterly bored, counting the days. It should be about time for my elder sister to give birth to the white tiger. Using visiting my father as an excuse, I returned to the Lynxy clan. My father treated me like an honored guest. After all, I am now the mother of the ancient mystical beast, the phoenix, and also the mystic heaven fairy of the avian tribe. Keeping me happy means maintaining good relations with the avian tribe. I suggested going to visit my elder sister, and my father readily agreed. My elder sister was currently in her room, accompanied by Alara, while this father of hers, overwhelmed with countless tasks entertaining distinguished guests from the avian tribe, had completely forgotten that today was the day his eldest daughter was to give birth to the white tiger. My elder sister was in the room at this moment, biting down on a handkerchief, her fingers digging deep into Alara's arm flesh. Her eyes were rolling back, devoid of strength to even cry out, nearly fainting from the pain. Father was shocked, though he knew the white tiger had a savage nature. He believed my sister's talents would surely allow her to withstand it, yet the current scene suggested her life might be in peril. Of course, I played my part in this. Knowing my sister feared pain, I was certain she'd use my method daily, but the backlash of my technique would manifest entirely on the white tiger's birthday. The more frequently the method was used, the more severe the backlash. Alara was now in tears, repeatedly calling out to her daughter to push harder. But my sister was in such agony she was on the verge of losing consciousness, completely deaf to anyone's words. Father hurriedly used his spiritual power to nourish the eldest sister, alleviating some of her pain. I watched coldly. This must be quite unpleasant, eldest sister, yet on your birthday, you have father and mother by your side, caring for you and easing your pain, while I had to endure alone in that shabby room, gritting my teeth and stabbing my own hand with scissors to stay conscious, just to survive giving birth to the ancient mystic beast. Seeing the eldest sister nearing her limit, I feigned concern and said, Father, I once read in the avian clan's ancient texts about a soul-shattering dagger that can fragment any soul and store its power. If we had it, we could infuse the stored soul energy into the eldest sister, allowing the white tiger in her womb to absorb it and be born. I shifted the topic. But this is merely recorded in books. How much of what's written can truly be believed? Father pondered for a moment. His spiritual power could only alleviate a small portion of eldest sister's suffering, not enough to allow the white tiger to be born. If this continued, the white tiger would torment eldest sister to death, and it too would perish within her womb. But the soul-shattering dagger is a sacred relic of the Lynxy clan, possessing immense power. Without it, the clan's strength would be greatly diminished. I sneered inwardly. At such a critical juncture, a mere soul-shattering dagger was still more important than his own daughter's life, or perhaps the entire family was this cold-blooded and ruthless, ready to discard me after use, and even burn my mother alive without hesitation. Alara couldn't sit still any longer and pleaded, Husband, please take out the soul-shattering dagger and help Zinnia. She's an unbearable pain. This is your own flesh and blood after all. A flicker of emotion passed through Father's eyes, but he still hesitated. I had to add fuel to the fire. Father, if elder sister dies along with the white tiger cub in her womb, and the tiger clan holds us accountable, our entire spirit rhino clan won't be able to bear the consequences. But if you take out the soul-shattering dagger to try, and the first wife's daughter gives birth to an ancient mystical beast, then our family's revival would be within reach. Father's eyes lit up. The price of failure was heavy, but the benefits were also something he couldn't refuse. Moreover, the soul-shattering dagger was a sacred artifact of the clan, passed down through generations and kept by the family head, rarely seen in the world. I had never even heard of it before and could only have learned about it from books. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. I had to thank my past life's elder sister for stabbing me with the soul-shattering dagger, otherwise, I would never have known that to kill Father, I must first destroy the dagger. Father flipped his hand, and a pitch-black dagger appeared in his palm. He then channeled his spiritual energy, infusing the soul power from the soul-shattering dagger into my elder sister's body. Watching as my elder sister continuously absorbed the soul power from the soul-shattering dagger, I knew my guess was correct. Though soul power wasn't as refined as spiritual energy, it could still be used by the white tiger to help it evolve into an ancient mystical beast. Seeing the white tiger about to be born, the father wanted to stop infusing soul energy, but the white tiger, enhanced by the eldest sister's secret technique, had no intention of being born obediently. It seemed determined to drain every last drop of soul energy, in desperation. The father used his spiritual power to block the white tiger from devouring the soul energy. Suddenly, a wisp of purple aura emanated from the eldest sister, slamming the father against the wall and making him spit blood. The purple aura came from the east, with 9 dragons coiling around it. The ancient mystical beast, the white tiger, was finally born. The soul-shattering dagger in the father's hand, now drained of all its soul energy, had become nothing more than an ordinary dagger. My father was both sorrowful and joyful, sorrowful because the clan's sacred artifact was gone, yet joyful because my elder sister had also conceived an ancient mystical beast. But with a wave of my hand, I enveloped the mystical beast in spiritual energy and drew it into my embrace. Both Alara and my father stared at me in shock. "What are you doing? If you dare harm the mystical beast, the tiger clan will never let you go." I merely smiled faintly. "Did you really think whoever gave birth to it would be considered its mother?" The eldest sister collapsed unconscious on the bed after exhausting her energy, while father sat paralyzed on the ground, suffering from the backlash of using the soul-shattering dagger. Only Alara remained completely unharmed, but all these years, she had only learned how to nurture spirit beasts and serve her husband. How could she possibly contend with me, who had cultivated spiritual power for years? Alara rushed over trying to snatch the white tiger from my arms, but with just a flick of my finger, my spiritual power bound her limbs, rendering her immobile. Thus, she could only watch helplessly as the white tiger in my arms opened its eyes, seeing me first, then affectionately nuzzling its head against me. My elder sister didn't bear a white tiger in her past life, so she didn't know that the tiger would regard the first person it sees as its mother. Without the soul-shattering dagger, my father was merely a paper tiger with a fearsome reputation but no real strength. With just a reach of my hand, I effortlessly seized his throat. My hand tightened more and more. I wanted to see him writhe in agony within my grasp. My voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for everyone in the room to hear. "When you forced my mother." Did you ever imagine a day like this? My hand suddenly clenched, and I snapped my father's neck with brute force, severing his head from his body as it fell to the ground. A man who shows no remorse toward my mother, a person who only cares about his own interests, is utterly unworthy of being called my father. I turned to look at Alara, who was slumped nearby, trembling all over. With a flick of my finger, I channeled a wisp of spiritual energy into my elder sister's forehead on the bed, forcing her awake. After all, torment is only fun when the victim is alive. The first thing my elder sister did upon regaining consciousness was ask Alara whether she had given birth to the ancient mystic beast, but when she saw Alara shivering and curled up in fear, and then noticed our father's decapitated corpse and the pool of blood, realization dawned on her within moments, her hair disheveled. She sat on the bed and burst into maniacal laughter, utterly deranged. "Tessa, oh Tessa, I never expected you to have been reborn as well. I had intended to spare your life, to watch you constantly being overshadowed by me, to see you kneeling on the ground begging for mercy, but I never expected you to actually win." Her eyes were bloodshot as she pointed at me, her lips curling into a sneer. "If only I had known, on the day I was reborn, I should have chopped you into pieces and fed you to the dogs. No, wait, I should have done it the day you were born. Chopped you up and fed you piece by piece to the dogs, right in front of that wretched servant." My expression remained utterly calm, for these 2 culprits who murdered my mother were about to be reduced to ashes. I whispered softly, "You've sinned beyond redemption. I never intended to fight you, but you killed my mother, a matricidal debt that can never coexist under heaven." Gathering spiritual energy in my palm, I swept it outward as the power transformed into mystical flames that ignited the surroundings. Before leaving, I cast a sealing barrier around the house, preventing anyone from approaching or escaping. My elder sister and Alara perished in the scorching flames, tasting the same suffering my mother endured. I found my mother's hastily buried gravestone and gently caressed the stone slab. "Today is your Memorial Day, Mother. Your daughter is doing well, and I hope you're happy wherever you are." With the clan leader murdered by villains, I took over the Lingxi clan, as the mother of the ancient mystical beasts Phoenix and White Tiger. Backed by both the Avian and Tiger clans, I effortlessly assumed the position of clan leader. Even though the Lingxi clan had never had a woman as its leader, they would not tolerate a woman becoming the head of the family, but I still took the position, and I held it firmly. I even secretly killed all those in the clan who opposed me. I implemented new clan rules, allowing women to cultivate spiritual power. Women and men were to be treated equally, eliminating all distinctions of rank and status within the clan. The new clan rules were met with widespread opposition and were misunderstood by the world. Some even openly mocked me, saying that as a woman, I was delusional to think I could change rules that had been in place for thousands of years. But I will persist until my dying breath. Continuing to preach equality in this world, I know it's difficult to change this entire male-dominated world, but I believe there will eventually be countless women like me who bravely stand up and gradually transform this world. That day will surely come. Story 2. On the third day after my husband brought his family to my house, the windy weather arrived. My father-in-law, mother-in-law, and my younger brother-in-law each occupied a bedroom. My husband even called his first love, and they squeezed into our bedroom together. I was driven to the living room, watching the strong wind howling outside and listening to the rattling of the floor-to-ceiling glass windows. I didn't know when the glass would be blown to pieces. I curled up in the corner, shivering. The wind grew stronger and stronger. Many people were swept away, and big trees as thick as several people's arms were also broken in half by the wind. Everyone was afraid to go out, however. Lila forced me to go out and find water on the pretext that there was no water source. I was driven out of the house, and a strong wind blew me into the sky. When I opened my eyes again and heard my husband say that his parents wanted to stay for a while, I readily agreed. This time, I'm going to drink a beverage, nestle on the soft sofa, and comfortably watch them being blown into the sky. 1. The meteorological station forecasts that there will be windy weather in the next few days. Please be careful, citizens, and pay attention to the safety of going out. The sound of the TV pulled my thoughts back. It took me a while to concentrate before I could make the blurry scene in front of me clear. The feeling of weightlessness caused by being lifted by the strong wind still remained. I held tightly onto the armrest of the sofa, steadied my mind, and made myself calm down, looking at the news broadcast on the TV. I rubbed my eyes and confirmed the time of the news. I had indeed been reborn. I first ran to the kitchen and gulped down cold water, quenching my thirst in a retaliatory way. Then I took a cloth bag and prepared to rush to the supermarket to stock up on supplies. Suddenly, the ringtone of my mobile phone rang, which startled me. I answered the phone, and my husband James' voice came from the other end of the line. "Wife, have you watched the news? I'm worried that it's not safe for my parents to live in the countryside. So I want to bring them here to live with us for a while. It was the same in my previous life. My husband James used the strong wind as an excuse to bring his parents to live at home. Out of the principle of putting myself in their shoes, I was reasonable and understanding, but I didn't expect that my father-in-law and mother-in-law would move in with my younger brother-in-law. With the addition of elders and another man in the family, there were many inconveniences in daily life. But when I told my husband about it, instead of comforting me, he accused me of being too fussy. Later, despite my opposition and with the support of his whole family, he brought his first love, Mila, to our home. She made comments about my home that originally belonged to me and took my things as her own. Later, the water pipes outside were blown off, and the whole building had no water supply. They all forced me to go out and find water on the pretext that there was no water. I didn't want to go out, but they pushed me out of the house together. Finally, I was extremely thirsty and hungry. Seeing that the wind outside was gradually subsiding, I wanted to go out to find something to eat and drink. Unexpectedly, the wind grew stronger on the way, and I was finally blown into the sky by the strong wind. Remembering these things, the feeling of weightlessness came back again. I quickly supported myself on the countertop. Probably James on the other end of the phone didn't hear my answer and felt a little guilty. He tentatively continued, "Wife, my parents are also very pitiful. They have worked hard all their lives." I interrupted him. "I can understand. Let them come." "Really, wife, I knew you were the most understanding. I really didn't misjudge you. I love you so much." James got the answer he wanted, happily kissed me through the phone, and kept flattering me. "By the way, our younger brother is coming with our parents. Let's bring him along too." I generously reminded him. James seemed not to believe it and confirmed with me several times. Then he kissed me several times through the phone before hanging up, thinking of his younger brother, Noah. I gritted my teeth with hatred. Too, it can be said that my father-in-law and mother-in-law looked down on me and were harsh on me. As for Noah, besides looking down on me, he tried to molest me several times. In my previous life, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and Noah each occupied one of my bedrooms. James brought his first love, Lila, and they moved into our master bedroom. All 3 bedrooms were occupied, and I could only cower in the corner of the living room. I was disturbed by the howling sound of the wind outside and couldn't sleep peacefully. In a drowsy state, I felt someone touching my face. When I opened my eyes, I found that the person was Noah. He smiled arrogantly. "Anyway, my brother doesn't like you. Why don't you be with me, sister-in-law? Don't worry, I will definitely treat you well." In a panic, I couldn't help crying out. My cry woke up the whole family, and they all came to the living room. I told James about his younger brother's bad behavior, but the whole family blamed me without distinguishing right from wrong. Natalie, are you being too sensitive? My younger brother wouldn't do such a thing. James didn't choose to believe me but spoke up to defend his younger brother. My mother-in-law pulled Noah behind her, looking like a hen protecting her chicks. That's right, Fei-Yang is still young and doesn't understand these things. Mom, is he still young? He's already 23 years old, an adult and graduated. My father-in-law interrupted me. So what? You are already a woman of Archin family. Who you're with doesn't matter. Does it? I was almost shocked to the core. I used to know that his parents had always lived in the countryside and had some feudal ideas, but I didn't expect them to be so pedantic. At that moment, I had no more expectations of this family or changing my relationship with the Chin family. I once thought that as long as I treated others with sincerity, the Chin family would eventually see my efforts one day. I was too naive. Of course, they should all come together. None of the people who killed me in my previous life should be left out. I want them all to pay the price. Yes, among the people who killed me in my previous life, Lila was definitely one of them. Lila was James' first love. In Lila's own words, the two of them grew up playing together since they were children. This was the first time I had heard of such a first love. Later, Lila's father became rich, and Lila followed her father to the city. However, the two of them never stopped contacting each other. It was not until James started dating me that their communication gradually decreased. Later, I don't know when, the two of them started to be flirtatious with each other again. Of course, all these things I only understood when I saw Lila appear at my door in my previous life. Before that, James had hidden all this very well, and my father-in-law and mother-in-law probably thought that Lila was much richer than me, so they flattered her a lot. Which was completely different from their attitude towards me. In my previous life, when there was no water at home, it was she who took the lead in coaxing everyone to force me to go out and find water. In fact, she used the most water. When the water source was in short supply, she would open 3 boxes of water to take a bath in a day, which was more than the drinking water for the whole family for a week. But I don't have to worry that she won't come. In my previous life, James brought her here without my permission. I first bought a battery-operated camera and installed it in the corner of the room. Then I rented a house with a basement in the neighboring community. No matter how strong the wind howls on the ground, it won't reach the basement. After that, I began to officially stockpile a large amount of supplies, water sources, food, generators, power banks. Looking at the basement with an area of nearly 100 square meters. Half of it was tightly occupied by my supplies. Only then did I feel a little more at ease. Then I bought some locks, axes, and other things for emergency use. I also spent some money to buy several simple pieces of furniture, thinking that I could comfortably nestle on the sofa, drink a beverage, eat snacks, and watch their loving family fight among themselves. I suddenly felt extremely happy. 3. It took 2 days to finish all these preparations. Calculating the time, they should be arriving soon. Just as I unscrewed a bottle of water, the phone rang. Noah's voice was as arrogant as he was. Where are you? Why haven't you come to pick us up at the station yet? Our parents are so old. How can you have the nerve to make them wait? You have no filial piety at all. If there were 2 people who were best at provoking the relationship between me and my father-in-law and mother-in-law, it would be him and Lila. I played dumb. James didn't tell me. I didn't know about it. Now you know. Hurry up. But I don't have a car. James drove it to work. Of course, I wouldn't go to pick them up. In my previous life, I was kind enough to pick them up, and the 3 of them kept nagging at me all the way. My mother-in-law's eyes lit up when she saw the car. Oh, this car is really nice. It must cost a lot of money, right? Although Noah was already 23 years old, he was like a giant baby who only knew how to ask his parents for things. And my father-in-law and mother-in-law doted on this youngest son very much and almost indulged his every whim. So when he said he also wanted a car, my father-in-law immediately set his sights on me. Natalie, look at your younger brother-in-law here. I originally wanted to refuse. The cost of a car is quite high, not to mention the money for the car itself, just the insurance, maintenance, and fuel costs average about 1,000 yuan a month. Noah had never gone out to find a job. And my father-in-law and mother-in-law didn't have much income either. If we paid for his car, there would be endless expenses in the future. But as soon as I started to persuade him euphemistically, Noah made a fuss, saying that I, as his sister-in-law, was stingy and wouldn't even buy him a car. My father-in-law and mother-in-law said I was not sensible. When James married you, we spent all our family's savings. If it weren't for your family asking for both a house and a car, would we not have money to buy a car for Fei-Yang? I knew that even if I went to my husband about this matter, the result would be that James would coax me into buying a car for his younger brother. In the end, I was forced to agree to them. In this life, it's better to have one less thing to deal with. I won't look for trouble myself. There was a curse word on the other end of the line, and the phone was angrily hung up. I secretly laughed in my heart. The weather had been getting worse in the past 2 days, except for public transportation that was barely operating. There were almost no private cars on the road, and James didn't drive the car to work. Of course, he drove it to pick up Lila, that delicate young lady who seemed unable to lift a finger or carry anything on her shoulder. Naturally wouldn't want to squeeze onto a bus, since he was thinking about his first love. He naturally couldn't take care of his family. I cut a plate of fruit for myself and did a skincare routine. I waited at home for a long time. Later, I was almost falling asleep in bed when there was a loud banging on the door outside. The knocking made my heart flutter. I sat up and blanked out for a while before going to open the door. As soon as I opened the door a crack, it was suddenly pulled open. James looked unhappy. He strode into the living room and slumped on the sofa. My father-in-law and mother-in-law followed behind him, each holding a huge snakeskin bag, as if they were bringing all their family belongings to live here. James unceremoniously picked up the cold water jug on the table, didn't even pour it into a cup, and started greedily drinking water directly from the jug. I frowned in disgust. Bad manners were really disgusting. After drinking a whole jug of water, he wiped his mouth and began to complain to himself. Why are there so many people on the lousy bus in the city? It also goes around in circles. It's crowded and takes a lot of time. That's right, the driver's attitude was also bad. Do people in the city look down on people from the countryside? From their conversation, I learned that they had disliked the slow speed of the bus on the way and ordered the driver to drive faster. But in this kind of weather, the driver had to ensure the safety of all passengers, and the bus had a prescribed route and couldn't be changed according to their wishes. The driver explained to them several times, but they didn't listen, so later, the driver ignored them. They thought the driver had a bad attitude and even tried to grab the steering wheel. As a result, they were held back by the enthusiastic passengers on the bus and almost got taken to the police station. It's good for them to suffer a little more. They should understand that except for their family members, no one has the obligation, and no one will spoil them so much, for the three of them rested for a long time before they recovered. Then they started wandering around my house, looking at my home. My father-in-law walked to the balcony, looked down through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and shouted as he stepped back, "What the hell? If you fall from such a height, you'll die." It's not as good as what James said at all. My mother-in-law went into my bedroom, rummaged around, and took out the jewelry box in my wardrobe. She opened the box, and when she saw the necklaces, rings, and earrings inside, her eyes lit up. She picked up those things one by one and tried them on. She sat in front of the dressing table and admired herself decked out in jewels in the mirror. While trying them on, she kept complaining. I'm saying, Natalie, a woman should learn to be thrifty and manage the household well. When you spend money recklessly, you should think about how hard your man works to earn money outside. Although she said so, her eyes narrowed into a slit, and she couldn't stop smiling. Are you kidding? I'm not relying on James to support me. He's a grown man, 2 years older than me, and his salary is lower than mine. It's not certain who is supporting this family between us. However, having said that, I had expected my mother-in-law to do this. All the things in the jewelry box she saw now were things I bought on Pinduoduo for 9 yuan with free shipping for 10 pieces. They were exquisitely shaped, except that the material wasn't the real gold and silver she thought it was, and they would oxidize and deform after being worn for a long time. There were no other disadvantages. I smiled and said, Mom is right. Mom, I think these suit you very well. You can take them all home. How can I do that? That's not what I meant. But her hands were much more honest than her mouth. She directly took the whole jewelry box out of the room and stuffed it into the snakeskin bag she brought. Looking at her cautious appearance, she probably thought these were some treasures. Noah had already walked around the whole house, he shouted. In such a big house, there's not even a computer. I want to play on the computer. There really wasn't one. Normally, James and I are both extremely busy at work, spending very little time at home. We don't even turn on the TV often, let alone play on a computer. We both have laptops that we carry around. However, in my previous life, I gave him my computer to play with. When he lost badly in a game, he smashed my computer to pieces in a fit of rage. Naturally, all the work files on the computer couldn't be recovered. Noah not only showed no remorse but also refused to compensate me, after hearing that the computer cost over 10,000 yuan. My father-in-law and mother-in-law even accused me of extorting money from my own family, wondering what ulterior motives I had. So in this life, let him mess with his brother's computer. It's their family's business, and as an outsider, I won't interfere. Just wait. When your brother comes back, you'll have a computer to use, always relying on my brother to pick us up in the car, and now even for using a computer. Natalie, what did my brother marry you for? To be a decoration at home? Noah flew into a rage and shouted at me. What he said at this moment should be the most genuine thoughts of the whole family. When James wanted to marry me, my parents proposed a certain amount of betrothal gifts. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were very reluctant. After the two families had dinner together, my parents and I left first. Just as we walked out of the restaurant, I realized I had left my car keys in the dining room and went back to the private room to get them. Outside the door of the private room, I heard my father-in-law and mother-in-law objecting. No way, our family doesn't have that much money, what they're asking for is too much. That's right, after marrying her, won't she rely on you for a living? She's just a decorative vase. Does she even deserve it? 5. I was so angry that I almost cried. In fact, during the dinner, my parents had understood the difficulties of his family. The betrothal gifts had already been reduced by half. But for them to talk about us like this behind our backs was unacceptable to me, so I broke up with James. Unexpectedly, James resorted to the same tactics he used when he was chasing me in school. He came to pick me up downstairs at the company every day, apologized, and begged for my forgiveness. My parents are tough on the outside but soft on the inside. They just said those things. Now they're going to borrow money from relatives. I swear they didn't mean it. If you don't like them, we'll live on our own after marriage and not have any contact with them. After his repeated pleadings and promises, I couldn't bear to give up on this 5-year relationship, so I agreed to marry him. In my previous life, I thought that helping them during this extreme weather would change my father-in-law and mother-in-law's view of me and improve our relationship. After all, we were family. If we had children in the future, they would call my in-laws grandparents. And I didn't want things to get too ugly. Unexpectedly, my kindness became the reason for my death. Go ask your brother who the real decoration is in this house. I earn more money, and I do all the housework. Even now, you're living in my house. I didn't want to indulge him anymore and retorted directly. Noah was stunned for a moment, taken aback by my sudden assertiveness. Just as he was about to retort, the door opened again. James opened the door, and Lila was following behind him. What's going on? Why are you arguing, brother? Sister-in-law didn't come to pick us up and even scolded me. I rolled my eyes. Keep making things up. Just because I said something he didn't like, he said I scolded him. If I had really scolded him, would he say I hit him? Cut it out. James patted his head and didn't blame me. Currently, James still needs something from me, so naturally, he's being nice to me. Natalie, this is Lila, an old friend of mine. She's on a business trip in City A these 2 days, and with this weather situation, can she stay here for a few days? Looking at my father-in-law and mother-in-law winking at each other, I couldn't help but find it funny. Sure, why not? You're welcome, everyone is here. The show is about to begin. James, I've stocked up a lot of food at home. You can start cooking for our parents first. I'll go downstairs to buy some cold beer for you all to enjoy while you eat and chat. I told James and immediately went out, running towards the house I rented. Goodbye forever, you people, who are destined to be together, might as well fight among yourselves. As it got darker, the wind started to blow harder and harder. Listening to the wind howling outside and seeing some pedestrians being pushed around by the wind, I watched as James' family happily cooked hot pot on the surveillance. After a long time without my return, James called me. But I had already turned off my phone and got a new number as soon as I went out. Unable to find me and without their cold beer, the family expressed their dissatisfaction with me and started eating the hot pot I bought. After eating the hot pot, to air out the smell, Lila went to the window and opened it. Just as she took a few breaths of fresh air, a sudden gust of wind blew her towards the window. Most of her body leaned out of the window, and she desperately held onto the window frame to prevent herself from being blown away. Her screams echoed through the empty air. This was the 30th floor. If she fell, she would surely die. 6. Her screams brought the whole family running. They all rushed to grab her legs and pulled her back together. It took the strength of 3 people a long time to finally pull her back against the force of the wind. Everyone collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. Lila looked terrified. With tears streaming down her face, they managed to save her, but then the question arose, who would close the window? The wind blowing into the room knocked over the cups on the coffee table. In my previous life, at their strong insistence, I was pushed to close the window. Not only was I almost blown out, but when I couldn't close it, the whole family slammed the window shut with all their strength. They didn't care at all that my fingers were still holding the window frame. Intense, excruciating pain shot through me, and I almost fainted. It was only when a stronger gust of wind pushed the window open wider that I was able to pull my hand back. Unexpectedly, instead of blaming Lila, who had opened the window, they turned around and scolded me for being slow and almost getting everyone killed. Watching the family cowering and evade on the surveillance, I sneered in my heart. I want to see who among them will take the initiative to close that window this time without me. Finally, My mother-in-law reluctantly went to the window amidst my father-in-law's scolding. With the help of several others, they managed to close it. Noah didn't care about his mother at all. While complaining about how useless everyone was, he occupied a second bedroom. He slammed the door shut, making Lila tremble all over, and she started crying again. She was still sitting on the ground, too weak in the legs to stand up. She hadn't helped when they were closing the window either. My father-in-law walked into another second bedroom with a dark face, and my mother-in-law followed him, clutching her chest, watching James show all kinds of concern for Lila and gently carry her into the bedroom. I felt nothing but disgust. He had always remained on intimate terms with Lila, yet he still married me and made my life miserable. In my previous life, it was on this very night that I discovered the unusual relationship between him and Lila. That night, he had gone into his brother Noah's bedroom at first, but when I was harassed by Noah, I clearly saw him running out of our master bedroom. Lila had been staying in the master bedroom that night. Before going to bed, she smiled innocently and said, "Sister Natalie, I'm really sorry. I have trouble sleeping, and I'm used to sleeping alone. Do you think I could?" Before she could finish, James nodded eagerly. "Sure, of course." I secretly pinched him, but to save him from losing face in front of others, I agreed. As a result, I could only sleep in the living room. I never expected that Lila didn't want me to sleep with her so that she could have an affair with James at night. Remembering my previous life, I felt that even the house had become dirty. The next evening, while Lila was taking a shower, the water suddenly stopped, based on past experience. The water pipes outside were probably blown off, causing a water supply problem. Lila stuck her head out of the bathroom, with only her head visible. Her head was covered in foam, and the foam was making it impossible for her to open her eyes. "James, bring me a bottle of water." After James handed her a bottle of water, she ordered, "Go and see what's going on. Is the water cut off?" James went out and came back soon. I asked the neighbors. Their water is also cut off. There must be a problem with the water supply. They clearly didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. In fact, Lila even used bottled water to take a bath the next night, so when Noah woke up at noon on the fourth day and went to get water, he found that the place where the water was stored was empty. His shouts drew everyone's attention. Lila pursed her lips and said unhappily, "If there's no water, go and find some." Shouting won't make it appear out of thin air. James rummaged through everything but couldn't find any water. Then he tried calling me, hoping against hope. This time, I turned on my phone and waited for it to ring several times before answering slowly. "Natalie, there's no water at home. Where are you?" 7. I tried my best to make my voice sound terrified. "I don't know. I was about to leave the supermarket, but the wind got stronger and stronger. It pushed me along, and I fell to the ground. I hit the back of my head on the roadside and passed out. When I woke up, I was in someone else's house. Some kind people saved me. What about the water? Where's the water?" He interrupted me impatiently. "I think there should be 2 bottles left in the upper cabinet. You can look again." After saying that, I deliberately hung up the phone, watching on the surveillance as they rummaged through the upper cabinet and found 2 bottles of water, looking extremely delighted. But when they looked into the cabinet again, their joy immediately turned to anxiety. What I said was true. There were indeed 2 bottles of water in the cabinet, but only 2 bottles. Noah grabbed one bottle first and drank it all in one gulp. When he was about to open the other bottle, my father-in-law snatched it away. James called me on a video call again, looking extremely angry. "Why are there only 2 bottles of water?" I picked up a cold beverage and took a sip while answering. I guess I remembered wrong. Seeing the beverage in my hand, Noah's eyes lit up. My father-in-law and mother-in-law started shouting angrily, "You're living a good life at someone else's place and don't care whether your husband lives or dies. Do you have a heart? You did this on purpose. You want to kill our whole family, don't you?" James angrily threw his phone to the ground, smashing it into pieces. There was 1 bottle of water left for 4 people. How would they divide it? This was going to be quite a show. Noah didn't believe there was only 1 bottle left and kept searching the house. After the house was turned upside down, everyone's faces turned pale. After a long while, Noah was the first to speak. "Lila, go out and buy some water." "Why me?" Lila immediately refused when she heard this. "You use so much water for 1 bath. If it weren't for you, would the whole family be out of water?" As soon as he said this, my father-in-law and mother-in-law immediately chimed in. They tried to brainwash Lila using the same tactics they used to manipulate me in my previous life, but unfortunately, Lila wasn't fooled. When they couldn't convince Lila, the family simply pushed her out of the house. On the corridor surveillance, Lila knocked on the neighbors' doors, since everyone was desperately short of food and water at this time. Many people didn't even open the door when they heard she was asking for water. She had to go door to door on each floor. To my surprise, she actually managed to borrow some water. I guessed it was because of her pretty face and attractive figure. After all, there are always some people who risk their lives for beauty. The whole family happily took the few bottles of water from Lila, not noticing the strange expression on her face at all. After drinking the water, the Chin family still wanted more and asked Lila to go and get some more. Lila went to the refrigerator, took out some frozen food, and cooked it with the only bottle of water left. Everyone is short of these things now. It's not easy to get more. I'll take this food and see if I can exchange it for some water. The family nodded eagerly. In fact, the food I left wasn't much, except for the full layer of fruits and vegetables on the top that was just for show. There was almost nothing in the lower layer of the freezer. A few bags of frozen dumplings and tang yuan were placed at the front, but they were all filled with raw dough inside. Based on the amount of food they had consumed in the past few days, they should almost have finished the food on the top of the refrigerator. The food in the lower layer, which was what Lila took to cook just now, was almost all there was left. Perhaps it was karma, or maybe Lila wanted revenge. Before she left, she didn't tell the family that there was no more food in the refrigerator. From the surveillance, I saw that after leaving the house, Lila went upstairs and hid in the stairwell. After all, compared to the family that had sent her out to risk her life, this place was much safer. Moreover, she had taken some food with her, so she should be able to survive for a few days. Less than an hour after Lila left, the 4 members of the Chin family, all holding their stomachs, groaned in unison, judging by their appearance. There must have been something wrong with the water they just drank, maybe out of hatred. Lila had also asked for some laxatives when borrowing the water. Anyway, although there were 2 bathrooms in my house, it seemed that they weren't enough at all now. Watching them running around in a panic, I couldn't help but laugh. See, this was the good daughter-in-law that my father-in-law and mother-in-law had been longing for. When trouble came, she not only wouldn't help them but would even stab them in the back. It was only after 5 or 6 hours that the family finally stopped making a sound. They must have been completely exhausted, but being dehydrated at this time was equivalent to accelerating their deaths. James lay in bed, constantly shouting and cursing at Lila. The father-in-law clamored that he was hungry and asked the mother-in-law to cook. The mother-in-law dragged her weak body to open the refrigerator and found that all that was left were those raw doughs. Look at the wife you married. She wants to kill our whole family, due to his lack of strength. The father-in-law's words, which should have been a scolding, sounded like a lament. James could no longer hold back. The extreme hunger and thirst had already made him irritable. The father-in-law's accusation seemed to snap the last taut string in his mind. As soon as the father-in-law finished speaking, he suddenly got up and stormed out. He mumbled, I'll go buy it. Okay, that little bitch. When she comes back, I'll break her legs. How dare she play tricks on me? Who does she think she is?" The mother-in-law quickly stepped forward to stop him, telling him not to do anything stupid, but the father-in-law kept egging him on from the side. Let him go. If he doesn't go, I'll look down on him." Under the double torture of physical and mental suffering, James was in a state of extreme excitement. After all, the mother-in-law was a woman, and in the end, she couldn't stop him. She watched as James slammed the door heavily, then slumped to the ground and stared blankly, wiping away her tears. James didn't return home the entire night. The mother-in-law sat in the living room all night until dawn. I knew that James was most likely in grave danger. Another day passed, and Noah, along with his father-in-law and mother-in-law, were on the verge of starving and dying of thirst, while I lounged on the sofa, drinking beverages and eating instant hot meals, watching them become increasingly weak. The father-in-law and mother-in-law seemed to be arguing about something again. At first, their voices were low, and I couldn't make out what they were saying. As their voices gradually grew louder, all I could hear were various curses. Then the hot-tempered father-in-law started to attack the mother-in-law. However, due to his lack of strength, he couldn't grab the mother-in-law's head and smash it against the wall or the ground as he used to. On the surveillance, I saw him give the mother-in-law a push, but the mother-in-law was as light as a paper figure and fell backward. The back of her head hit the cabinet, and soon a pool of blood spread on the ground. Hearing the commotion, Noah came to the bedroom and stood there stunned when he saw the scene. Then he took out his phone and dialed the emergency number, but it seemed that the call was never answered. Indeed, in this kind of weather, any vehicle could be blown over. What could the hospital do? The father-in-law kept mumbling, "It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. Your mother fell accidentally. It has nothing to do with me." Noah composed himself, walked over, and squatted down beside him. He placed his hand on his father-in-law's knee and said, "Dad, this has nothing to do with you. It was an accident." The father-in-law looked at him, and his eyes gradually focused. Noah added, "Dad, we tried our best. We called for emergency help, but no one could help us." He shook his father-in-law, and the old man seemed to come back to his senses. Yes, you're right." Noah whispered something in his father-in-law's ear. Then the two of them lifted the mother-in-law and carried her to the kitchen. 9. When Noah picked up the knife and slashed at the mother-in-law's wrist, I heard her let out a low groan. She was still alive when they drained her blood. She was bled to death by the man she had served all her life in her own flesh and blood, just because they wanted to survive. They made the most of her when she was alive, and she couldn't even rest in peace after death. Although the mother-in-law hadn't treated me well, from the perspective of being a woman, I still felt a trace of pity and sympathy for her. They held a cup under the mother-in-law's wrist to catch the blood, with blood all over their mouths. They looked like demons. For a moment, I couldn't even tell whether they were human or beasts. Even though I was only watching the scene on the surveillance, I couldn't help but shiver. After drinking the mother-in-law's blood, the two of them seemed to regain some strength. James returned to the room, while the father-in-law sat on the sofa in the living room, lost in thought. I wondered if there was a trace of regret in his heart. The wind that night was stronger than usual, according to previous reports. After tonight, the wind would gradually subside, and people's lives could return to normal. I stretched, ate hot pot, and watched a TV drama on my phone, feeling extremely happy. By chance, when I looked up, I happened to see the surveillance footage of my house. A fierce gust of wind hit, shattering the floor-to-ceiling windows of the house, and the father-in-law and the sofa in the living room were blown out together. He didn't even have time to let out a scream, and the surveillance suddenly cut off. I quickly checked my phone. Thank goodness, the evidence of their crimes during the day had been automatically uploaded to the cloud. I sent the evidence to the police and continued to live my carefree life. About 2 days later, the wind gradually died down, the dark clouds dispersed, and the sun reappeared. Everyone returned to their normal lives. People went back to work, and students went back to school. After receiving my evidence, the police took the lingering Noah back to the police station as soon as they could dispatch officers. He was already an adult and needed to bear legal responsibility and pay the price for his actions. Moreover, even if he were to be released in the future, having been spoiled by his parents and brother since childhood, he would probably find it impossible to integrate into society and lead a normal life. The rescue team searched and found many bodies. The names and photos of the father-in-law and James appeared on the list. At the same time, when the property management of the community was doing maintenance, they found a female corpse in the stairwell. I recognized her as Lila. She probably couldn't get any more water and food in the end and died of thirst and starvation in the corridor. My house was severely damaged, with all the north-south transparent glass blown away. Its safety and quality were no longer guaranteed, so it was definitely unsellable. The meteorological station forecasts that there will be windy weather in the next few days. Please be careful, citizens, and pay attention to the safety of going out. It didn't really matter how many people died. After all, they were only nominally related to me. And I wasn't sad. Since James had passed away, I inherited all of his property. Although it wasn't a large amount of money, I regarded it as compensation for the 2 years of worry and trouble I had endured since marrying him. I took James' death certificate and household register to cancel his household registration, proving that I was a widow. Then, with that money, I bought a smaller house, which I regarded as my prenuptial property. The next morning, the sun filled the room. I opened the window, took a breath of fresh air, and was ready to embark on a new journey in life. Story 2. As the apocalyptic heatwave struck, I got into a big argument with my son because I wouldn't let him play video games. Unexpectedly, while I was hanging clothes on the balcony, he locked me out. By that time, the temperature outside had soared to 60 degrees Celsius. From behind the door, my son mocked me gleefully. "Old witch, that's what you get for not letting me play games." I pounded on the door and banged the clothes rack with a hanger, trying to make enough noise to get his attention, but he ignored me completely. Eventually, I died of dehydration without ever leaving that balcony. After being reborn, I decided to abandon this thankless child and struggled to survive alone in the apocalyptic world. "Why can't I play video games?" Hunter demanded, hands on his hips, resentment in his eyes. I tried to calm myself and spoke gently. "You're 18 now. You need to start taking responsibility for your future. Responsibility, responsibility, responsibility. You always spout these useless words. I don't need you meddling in my business. Why do only you nag me constantly, when Dad and Grandma never do? I hate you. You're the most useless mom in the world. You've achieved nothing yourself and now you're forcing your ideas on me. I don't even like studying. Why don't you just die?" His words, "Why don't you just die?" crushed my heart. It was chilling. The child I had carried for 9 months and cared for all his life now wished me dead. Tears streamed down my face. Seeing this, Hunter just smirked coldly, crying again. That's all you women know how to do. Unable to argue with Hunter as the weather grew hotter, I focused on the clothes drying quickly on the balcony. The temperature was unnaturally high, even with the air conditioning at its lowest setting. The house was still uncomfortably warm. I went to retrieve the clothes I had hung out earlier that morning. Unbeknownst to me, Hunter had followed and locked the balcony door behind me as I stepped outside. Standing behind the glass door, he watched me coldly, his eyes filled with spite. "Open the door, let Mom in," I pleaded. The temperature outside was unbearable, and the sun's rays burned my skin. Sweat covered my forehead and streamed down my cheeks. Unfortunately, Hunter completely ignored my pleas. "Just reflect on your actions out there. Now no one can disturb my gaming." I never imagined that the child I had raised with so much care would lock me out just to play games without restrictions. In the intense heat, I had to use my clothes to shield myself from the direct sunlight. I knocked on the door, hoping someone inside would hear my cries for help. Sadly, no one did. I regretted having the house soundproofed during renovations. As the temperature rose, I could even see the ground emitting steam, shrouded in a haze. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion not far away. The ground had literally burst from the heat. I grabbed a clothes hanger and tried to break the balcony door, hoping it would give me a chance to survive, but the explosion-proof glass installed for safety during renovations wouldn't budge. As the temperature soared, my body's water supply dwindled. I collapsed from dehydration and awaited Hunter's rescue that never came. Before losing consciousness completely, I heard my son tell his grandmother, "Mom's sleeping in the bedroom." The world around me blurred. People died from drought, lacking water and food, with corpses everywhere. Social order had completely broken down. People were hurting each other over a sip of water. After what felt like an eternity, I woke up again. The burning sensation was gone, replaced by the warmth of my blankets. I grabbed my phone in shock. Was it all just a dream? I cautiously walked to the door. Hunter was sitting at his computer, playing games, his homework thrown on the floor. As I appeared, he looked up at me irritably. "Just one more game, then I'll do my homework," he said, repeating the familiar scene in words. Everything in the dream overlapped with reality. I glanced at the date, June 22nd, a week before the argument I had with Hunter. I didn't pay him much attention and turned to head back to my room, planning to leave the house. Seeing that I was ignoring him, Hunter looked at me in surprise. "Go ahead and play. From now on I won't bother with you anymore." Hunter was initially stunned, then as if something struck him, he said fiercely, "You better remember I'm already an adult. I don't need your meddling." Looking at the child in front of me, whom I despised deeply, I couldn't understand how I could have raised such a terrible child. The first thing I did when I left the house was to check the balance in my bank account. I am a true second-generation wealthy individual. When I married Hunter's father, my parents disapproved of the marriage, but I insisted on being with Connor, and my parents, having no other choice, ended up transferring $10 million to me and didn't even attend the wedding. Over the years, out of spite, I also lost contact with them. It was only at the bank that I discovered all the money in my account had been transferred to Connor's account at some unknown time. He had even left just a small amount for me. Thinking of Connor and his mother, and the ungrateful son I gave birth to, I suddenly realized something. My son wasn't spoiled by me. It was the environment he was in, the poor genetic traits in his blood that were bad. Since fate has given me a chance to start over, I must live well with those who love me. I dialed a number I hadn't called in a long time. One that was etched in my heart. My hands were sweating with nervousness. The phone was answered after just 2 rings. A familiar voice came from the other end, and my voice choked up. Tears uncontrollably began to fall. I took a few deep breaths, my words heavy with emotion. "Mom, I miss you." My parents were quick. In just an hour, a Maserati pulled up in front of me. My parents hurried out of the car. "What's wrong, dear? Did Connor bully you?" I was choking up, unable to speak. As scenes from my past life flashed before my eyes. "Let's talk when we get home." On the way, I pondered over how to start the conversation. Seeing my hesitation, my parents didn't rush me and just sat beside me waiting. I recounted everything from my past life to my parents, tears streaming down incessantly. My mom, too, sat silently crying beside me. Even my stubborn father had tears in his eyes. "Mom and Dad, I know this sounds unbelievable, but you have to trust me. In a week, the temperature will skyrocket to 70 degrees in a short time, making it impossible to stay outdoors. Then will come a severe drought. Initially, people will survive on their stored food, but later, many will venture out in search of food and will die in the heat on the streets. We need to start preparing now, for the end times." My father is a man of action, and after hearing my words, he began preparations immediately. My mother set out to stock up on supplies. Our home immediately went into full preparation mode, and I sat on the sofa, digesting the events of my past life. I won't let Connor and Hunter's family have an easy time. I suddenly remembered that during the extreme heat, the city's water and electricity supply would be problematic. I urgently told my father to buy more solar panels, and it would be best to also set up a water storage tank for home use. Once everything was arranged, I would go home and settle the score with Connor. When I got home, their family of 3 was happily enjoying their dinner, already finished by the time I arrived. Only leftovers remained on the dining table. Several used bowls are waiting for me to wash. When Hunter saw me come home, he snorted at me displeasingly and turned away without paying me any attention. I didn't eat their leftover food. Instead, I went straight to my room to pack my things. When Connor returned to the room and saw me packing, his expression darkened. "What are you up to now? He's your son. Can't you just make allowances for him? Hunter told me that you've been acting strangely since you got up today, and you didn't even make him breakfast." I shrugged off Connor's hand and slapped him across the face. "Hunter is your son too. Don't leave all the parenting to me." Connor, stunned by the slap, became furious and looked like he was about to hit me. I stepped back and got straight to the point. "My parents contacted me today." Connor's hand, which he had raised, fell to my shoulder as he obviously knew the status of my parents in the city and was aware of my family's wealth. He had pursued me desperately at first, partly because he was eyeing our family's money, but he never expected that my parents would rather sever ties with me than let me into their home. I had noticed the shift in Connor's attitude after we got married. But since we already had Hunter, I kept putting up with it. Now that I see things clearly, I don't want to endure it any longer. "What do your parents want?" he asked. "They want to acknowledge me as their daughter again," I said, arms crossed, regaining my usual pride. "I will always be the heir to the Shin Corporation. All their money will be mine." Hearing this, Connor sat on the bed with a flattering look, trying to please me. "Wife, then why are you packing your bags?" "My parents miss me. They want me to come home and stay." As I spoke, I unconsciously raised an eyebrow. "Why did my card show insufficient funds when I went shopping with my mom today?" I later checked at the bank. "Why was the money transferred to your account?" Connor looked a bit nervous. "Hey, what's yours is mine, right? What's wrong with taking my own money? I was just worried you'd lose track of so much money." I nodded in understanding, then playfully wrapped my arms around Connor's neck. "My dad said the company is discussing a big project lately, and the bank transfers are slow. He wants to borrow a few million from me for now. Once the bank completes the transfer, he'll send back double to me." Connor's eyes lit up, and without a second thought, he transferred the money back to me. When Hunter saw me about to leave, he leaned against the doorframe and said, "You finally realize that you're the most useless person in this house. Better not come back." Connor struck him on the head. "How can you talk to your mom like that?" Watching the scene, I couldn't help but laugh a bit. Connor had never laid a hand on Hunter when he used to mock me in the past. I sneered. "Don't worry, from now on I won't bother with you anymore, including not leaving you any of my money. Find someone else to call mom." Hunter kicked a chair over in anger. "You think I care about your money?" he started to say, but was interrupted by Connor. Connor sharply slapped Hunter. "How can you speak to your mom like that?" Hunter, furious, kicked over a stool nearby. "When did you start siding with this woman? I hate you both." Hunter stormed off, and Connor then turned his pleading eyes to me. "Wife, just stay at your parents' house for a few days and come back soon. Both your son and I will miss you." I nodded noncommittally, ignoring Connor's overt flattery, and left. The family driver had been waiting for me downstairs for a long time, just as I got into the car. I called my mom, deciding to meet up at the supermarket. Due to the large quantity of supplies I purchased, I specifically arranged for 2 lalem of trucks. When I arrived at the supermarket, my mom had already filled several shopping carts. She was in charge of buying food in the grains and oils section, while I handled the leisure and entertainment section. I picked up a box of each flavor of chips, 10 boxes of soda, both sugary and sugar-free, nuts, dried fruits, various types of plums, spicy strips, bread, and compressed biscuits, 5 boxes of each. Then, I moved on to the personal care section, grabbing 100 toothbrushes and 100 tubes of toothpaste, 100 bottles of various brands of facial cleansers, 50 sets of toners and moisturizers, as well as face towels, sanitary pads, shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. Everything visible on the counters was swept clean by me, given the future weather might be extremely hot for an unknown period. I plan to stock up for several years for our family of 3, even if the hot weather dissipates. The unused supplies can be donated to those in need. The supermarket staff were somewhat overwhelmed by the scale of my shopping, and someone even called the manager over. The manager respectfully asked why I was buying so much, and I had my response ready. I told him that my family runs a company and we were planning to donate supplies to children in mountainous areas in a few days. Realizing the purpose, the manager even helped gather people to load the supplies onto the lalem of trucks. After I finished my part, I finally had time to find my mom. The checkout area was crammed with more than 10 carts, and my mom was still picking fish in the fresh food section. I glanced over her selections: 100 bags of rice, 100 bags of flour, 100 containers of oil, soy sauce, oyster sauce, salt, light and dark soy sauce, and small chili peppers, 10 boxes each. 100 pounds each of pork, beef, and lamb. The cashier was scanning items so fast sparks seemed to fly, and I called over the drivers and staff to help load the supplies into the trucks, after completely clearing out the supermarket. 5 hours had passed, our large-scale purchase was quite conspicuous, and fearing unwanted attention, I had the lalem of drivers deliver the goods to a highway exit near our home. After the drivers left, I had my dad drive over to pick up the supplies. Just transporting the goods took all night, and by the time we finished, it was early morning. The sky was dim, hinting at the rising temperatures. Exhausted, our family of 3 collapsed on the sofa, only feeling hungry once we relaxed. My mom simply cooked a few instant noodles in the kitchen, and after a few bites, we headed to our rooms to rest. There were 6 days left until the predicted severe heatwave. The next morning, I was woken up early by the noise of a renovation team. Stepping outside, I saw that my dad had raised our yard's wall by 5 meters and added another layer of reinforced concrete within. The top of the wall was also fitted with broken glass and an electric fence. Seeing my puzzled look, my dad slowly approached and said, "The most unpredictable thing at the end of days is human nature. We're not afraid of drought, but of bad people wanting to steal our supplies." He also modified our backyard swimming pool by adding an oxygenation device and steel barriers to breed fish. The large live fish my mom bought were all placed in there. Solar panels covered the top of the pool, ensuring that even if the power went out, we'd have enough electricity. As sunlight was abundant in the hot weather, the main gate was reinforced with 3 layers, and the villa's windows were sealed with reinforced concrete. Unless someone was willing to break down the door under scorching sun, which would take hours, it remained secure. After these preparations, my parents hired workers to install air conditioning in every room of our house. The spare rooms, unused by anyone, were converted by my mom into hydroponic rooms to cultivate fresh fruits and vegetables. We spent the entire day organizing supplies by their expiration dates. There were 5 days left until the arrival of the extreme heat. That night, I slept deeply, feeling somewhat dazed when I woke up. It had been a long time since I had slept so soundly. Ever since I married Connor, I haven't had such long nights of sleep. I don't trust nannies, and since I'm concerned about Hunter's health, I take care of all his meals myself. Gradually, I ended up managing everyone's meals at home. Reflecting on the 18 years I raised Hunter, Connor always played the role of the good father. Whenever I refused to buy Hunter a toy, Connor would buy it for him the very next day. I never took Hunter to eat unhealthy food, but Connor always secretly did. Over time, Hunter grew to prefer Connor. When it came time for Hunter to buckle down academically, I enrolled him in tutoring classes hoping he would take his studies seriously and develop a skill for his future, but Connor didn't see it that way. He frequently found excuses to take Hunter out to play, telling him that his happiness was his greatest wish as a father. Such a perfect image of a good guy, but if he hadn't stolen so much money from me, how could he afford to say these things? Previously, I turned a blind eye to it all, only to meet a tragic end. This time, if I don't make them pay dearly, it would be letting these hypocrites off too easily. It's been so many days since I left home, and Hunter hasn't even called me once. Perhaps he's now happily playing his favorite games in front of the computer. On the other hand, Connor hasn't stopped sending me sweet messages on WeChat, reminiscent of when he was courting me. I only managed to reply to a few of his messages during breaks from my chores. After getting up, I made myself a lavish breakfast and was idly browsing posts on Xiaohongshu. A post about a survival checklist for a high-temperature apocalypse caught my eye, and I realized I was missing many items. I quickly put on sun protective clothing and grabbed an umbrella to head out. I bought 50 boxes each of cold medicine, fever reducers, anti-inflammatory drugs, diarrhea medicine, Yunnan Baiyao painkillers, calcium tablets, fever patches, various multivitamins, 10 thermometers, 10 bottles of cooling oil, and 10 bags of hemostatic powder. Then I ran to the hardware store and bought 10 daggers, 3 axes, 3 machetes, 10 flashlights, and 10 each of binoculars and drones. I contacted water suppliers in several nearby cities and ordered 500 barrels of water from each. While waiting for the delivery, I cleaned up the basement to store all the water where it was dark and easier to keep. Once the water was delivered, I started transporting supplies with my father. With 4 days left until the high-temperature apocalypse, I decided to visit Connor's house. As soon as I entered, I was greeted by a table full of takeout boxes and the stench of rotting food. It seems they've been ordering takeout since I left, and in this hot weather, the food spoils quickly. Even so, they had no intention of cleaning up the mess. Hearing the door, Hunter provocatively lifted his head from the computer desk. "What? Decided to come back? This pile of trash on the table is your welcome back gift. Don't forget to make me a tasty meal after you clean it up. I want spicy tofu with beef." I suppressed my anger and nodded smilingly at Hunter. "Son, Mom has reflected on giving you more freedom these past few days. I'm transferring 20,000 yuan to your WeChat now. Why don't you go out and have fun with your friends? I heard there's a new large-scale AR game store at the mall. Hunter's eyes lit up, but then he became suspicious. Are you really being this generous? I nodded and quickly transferred the money to Hunter's account. Hunter left happily with the money, and as soon as he was out the door, I immediately arranged for workers to come and install security cameras. Sitting on the sofa, the stench was truly unbearable, but this wasn't my home. How could I possibly be expected to clean it for him? I had workers install numerous cameras, big and small, throughout the room, achieving nearly complete coverage with no blind spots, taking advantage of the fact that no one had yet returned home. I packed up some of my personal belongings and left without a second glance. With only 2 days left until the onset of the extreme heat apocalypse, my mother and I drove to the countryside market. We bought a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, including potatoes and sweet potatoes, which are good for storage. Filling up the trunk of the car, we also bought some seeds for vegetables and fruits, and only then did we head home, satisfied. Once home, we firmly shut the main door. From that moment on, we resolved not to leave the house again. Quietly awaiting the day the extreme heat would strike, during these 2 days, my mom went out of her way to prepare my favorite meals, as if trying to make up for all the meals I had missed over the years. On the eve of the extreme heat apocalypse, all three of us were burdened with heavy thoughts and stayed up until the early hours. Unable to sleep, the temperature at night showed a rising trend, and my mom set the air conditioning to the lowest possible temperature, but it still felt oppressively hot. Unconsciously, I fell asleep and was awoken by the heat. I pulled back the curtains and saw steam rising from the ground outside. The sky was an eerily bright blue, the sun hung high in the sky, and it felt so close, almost as if I could reach out and touch it. Initially, people thought it was just a usual heat wave, but it quickly led to food shortages and dried-up water sources. Almost everyone who went out in search of food succumbed to the heat outside. I stepped out of my room. The air conditioning at home was set to 18 degrees Celsius, with several units working together since electricity was the least of our concerns now. Due to the scorching heat, my mom specially prepared cold dishes like liangpi and cold noodles for my dad and me. After a satisfying meal, I turned on the surveillance to check on Connor's household. As soon as I accessed the cameras, I saw Connor in a rage. Why is there nothing to eat at home, Mom? You always order takeout. Why don't you buy some food to store in the fridge? Connor's mother stood there, stunned by his shouting. I remembered back when I lived there. Connor's mom always found excuses to have me cook and shop for groceries. It had been many years since she last cooked. Once people get lazy, they tend to spiral further into laziness. Are you guys done yet? Just go out and buy it, Hunter said, lifting his head from his computer desk, visibly annoyed with Connor. Connor was not in a good mood either. It's nearly 70 degrees outside, no one's taking delivery orders, and you'd die of heat within seconds if you stepped outside. Hunter shrugged indifferently. Then just call my mom back, she can't stand seeing me starve. Hunter's remark seemed to spark an idea in Connor, who quickly grabbed his phone to call me. My phone rang within seconds. Just as I answered, I heard Connor's voice through the speaker, prompting me to lower the volume of the surveillance. Honey, when are you coming back? Hunter misses your cooking. I smirked. Hunter misses my cooking. Well, he could always come here instead. With this heat, it's inconvenient for the kid to travel back and forth. You have a car, why don't you drive over? Hunter spoke as if it were all perfectly reasonable. If I were still the person from my past life, I'd probably have rushed back to cater to them by now. Not to mention, given how cold-hearted they were, if I didn't die on the balcony, I'd perish one day during this extreme heat apocalypse. So driving back in this heat is fine. Since Hunter usually only likes his dad, maybe you should take the trouble to shop and cook for your son. I hung up before Connor could respond. Feeling a surge of satisfaction as I watched his frustrated expression on the phone, I turned off the surveillance, no longer wishing to watch their family drama. On the third day of the extreme heat apocalypse, the temperature at noon shockingly reached 100 degrees Celsius, temperatures high enough to cook a person alive. A message kept looping on the television: citizens are advised to stay safely at home. The weather is extremely hot and unpredictable. The nation will not abandon its people, and the government will distribute supplies in an orderly manner. Please wait patiently. In my previous life, I never lived long enough to witness these events, so I'm not very familiar with what happens in the future. At this point, the internet was still functioning, and I opened my phone to browse through Big Eyes, a social media app. Many people were wailing in despair. My house has run out of supplies, and it's so hot outside it could kill. What should I do? Room 1023. International Gardens, 2 Hermes bags for a tub of instant noodles and a bottle of water. Our electricity is out, and it's so hot inside that it's suffocating. Can someone please come to rescue me? I turned off the internet, trying to forget what I had just seen. I'm no saint or superhero, even though I know what's going to happen. I'm powerless to change it. All I can do is protect the people I love. I was gloomy all the way through dinner. My mom seemed to notice my mood and patted my head, saying, "When things haven't happened yet, no matter what you say, people won't believe you. You've done well. At least our family is still alive." Her words greatly comforted me. I put down my phone and devoured 2 big bowls of rice. The first week of the high-temperature apocalypse, the power went out. The surveillance cameras I had installed at Connor's house had backup batteries. Those batteries could last for about a week at most. But that was okay. A week was enough to get my revenge. The temperature rose extremely quickly, and wildfires broke out near mountainous areas, but due to the high temperatures, firefighters were unable to control the flames. The wildfires grew worse, and many villages vanished overnight. The day after the power outage, the internet and water supply stopped simultaneously. If in the beginning, some were clinging to life by drinking water, now, it was truly a path to certain death. Bored, I turned on the surveillance camera at Connor's house again. What I saw took me by surprise. Connor and Hunter were almost naked, just wandering around the house in their underwear. Connor's mom was nowhere to be found. Skipping through the footage, I discovered that Connor's mom, unable to bear Connor and Hunter's accusations, had left the house fully equipped several days ago. Unfortunately, she never returned, a stroke of luck amidst disaster. Had I still been in that house, they would probably have guilt-tripped me into going out to look for supplies too. Their spirits weren't what they used to be, but at least there was still quite a bit of water stored in the house. Connor lay next to a basin on the floor, licking the water whenever he couldn't stand the heat. Hunter, on the other hand, sat in a bucket, soaking his entire body in the water. With no electricity, the air conditioning was useless. The water stored indoors turned hot in no time. Suddenly, Connor seemed to think of something and took out his phone, pressing a few buttons. Soon after, my phone rang. "Baby, Hunter says he misses Mom," Connor said as he pinched Hunter hard. Hunter gasped, then, under Connor's gaze, began to fake cry. In the past, this might have moved me, but now, it wouldn't. I zoomed in on the screen, watching Hunter's dry sobs, his face not shedding a single tear, pretending it was an accident. I hung up the phone, I got up, went to the fridge, and grabbed an ice cream before video calling Connor. Connor answered almost instantly, his face lighting up with joy. "Honey, you finally decided to call us. Look at me and our son, what we've become now." I didn't care about Connor's attempts to look pitiful. First, I pointed the camera at the wall. My room had 3 air conditioners, each set to 18 degrees Celsius. The ice cream in my hand looked extremely tempting as I took small bites. Connor watched, inadvertently swallowing his saliva, his eyes dimming. "Honey, how come you have electricity over there?" I scoffed. "Our family is wealthy, of course, we have everything." Connor's eyes sparkled, his face full of cunning. "Honey, why don't you drive over and bring some supplies for me and our son? We will surely treat you well." Hunter looked miserable as he stared into the camera. "Mom, I know I was wrong. I won't play games anymore. Please save me and Dad." I dropped my playful smile and stared straight at Hunter. "Didn't I tell you before, whether you live or die has nothing to do with me anymore. Why should I save you? Don't you hate me the most?" Hunter and Connor were both stunned. The next second, Connor punched Hunter in the face. "Is this how you always upset your mom? If it weren't for you breaking your mom's heart, would I have to die with you?" Hunter had turned from the punch and, as rebellious as ever, immediately hit back at Connor. "Who are you to hit me? I'm your father. Do you think I wouldn't dare?" They quickly started fighting each other, but I watched disinterestedly for a while. "Stop fighting," I said. To my surprise, they actually stopped. Hunter pouted, his eyes reddening, and whined at me through the camera. "Mom, Dad hit me. I really know I was wrong. I won't do it again." Connor also leaned into the camera, his face full of resentment. "Wife, we might as well have another child if it means getting rid of this ungrateful one. Please don't refuse to save me just because you're angry with him." I laughed coldly. "You think either of you are good people, Connor. It's because he has your blood in him that he's so arrogant and selfish. If you hadn't always indulged him, would he have turned out like this? Neither of you are good for anything, Connor. Do you think I don't know why you secretly transferred money from my card? I really fell for the trap set by you and your son. Both of you are nothing but leeches and ingrates. Good luck fending for yourselves. I won't come to save you." I cursed at them for 10 minutes straight, leaving them utterly humiliated. They didn't bother to pretend anymore, and Connor spoke menacingly. "Bitch, you better hope I don't catch you. See how we'll deal with you," Hunter also shouted. You don't deserve to be my mom. I didn't continue to listen to their screaming. I just hung up the call. Connor doesn't know my address, so I'm not worried about them finding me. I never expected Connor to come, but instead, robbers showed up. The temperature at night wasn't as high as during the day. I was eating instant noodles while watching the surveillance cameras. A car approached from not too far away. They didn't turn on the headlights, but the night vision cameras captured everything clearly. I glanced at the outdoor temperature. Even at night, it was 60 degrees. They must have been really hungry to risk coming here for supplies. Several burly men quickly got out of the car, wrapped in several layers of aluminum sheets, with the air conditioning in the car blasting and connected to barrels in their makeshift mobile air-conditioned suits. They first circled my house's perimeter wall, then started climbing it, realizing the danger. I quickly turned on the electric fence using the backup power, holding my breath as I watched the men climbing. They seemed well prepared, climbing quickly, and soon reached the top. The moment one of them touched the broken glass, he cursed loudly. The noise woke up my parents, who rushed to the surveillance room to check on me. "What's going on?" My dad, wearing his pajama coat, approached me. I pointed to a group of people on the surveillance screen. "They're trying to climb over the wall. Probably to steal supplies." My dad gently patted my shoulder and gestured for me to relax. "Don't be afraid. Is the electric fence on? They won't be able to get in." One of them climbed up and took something out of his pocket, touched the electric grid with it, and then grabbed it with his hands. "Is that an insulating suit?" My dad and I exchanged a worried look. He quickly went back inside and pulled out an ancient crossbow that our ancestors had left under the bed. I looked at my dad, and he looked back at me. "Can you shoot?" My dad glanced at me. "Back in my youth, I never missed. It's been many years, but I can still handle a few petty thieves." I handed my dad the arrows while he readied the bow. With a whoosh, the arrow flew off target. The man, startled by the noise, paused. Before he could react further, my dad fired another arrow. It hit the man in the shoulder, sending him tumbling down onto those below, who couldn't react in time and were knocked to the ground. I watched the monitors. The man lay there motionless. "Is he dead?" I asked my dad. He shook his head. Seeing the situation turn sour, the remaining people in the vehicle abandoned their companion and drove off. Relieved, my dad and I felt a weight lift from our hearts, but fearing their return, our family stayed vigilant by the monitors and dared not sleep. Early the next morning, I received a call from Hunter. As soon as I answered, his sobs came through. He was crying loudly. "Wah, Mom. Dad sent me out to find supplies. I don't want to go. Please come save me." I ignored him, and after hanging up, I blocked Hunter and Connor's numbers. For a while, I didn't pay attention to the Connor family's affairs. Later, when I checked the monitors again, I saw that the two had fought that day. Then they left the house together, unexpectedly. In the end, they still united on the front lines to face their demise. 6 months after the post-apocalyptic heat wave, the temperature finally normalized, but gradually, I noticed something off. The temperature had dropped, but the rate of decrease was abnormally fast. Such unusual weather. My mom noticed it too. Sure enough, after a torrential rain, the temperature plummeted by 50 degrees. The next day, heavy snow covered the entire city. I knew then, the extreme cold apocalypse was coming. But no matter, my parents and I, along with the supplies in our house, were enough to last us until the end of the apocalypse.